The Crash and the Child. Eli lived alone in a small wooden cabin deep in the forest. He liked quiet days, fixing old machines and watching stars at night. People in the city called him strange, but he didn't mind. He had his tools, his books, and the silence of trees. One night, during a heavy storm, thunder shook the sky. Lightning flashed like fire across the clouds. Eli sat inside, drinking warm tea, when a loud explosion hit. It wasn't thunder. It was something different, something close. The ground rumbled. Birds flew from trees, screaming. Eli ran to the door and looked outside. Through the rain, he saw smoke rising from the woods. Something had crashed. He grabbed his coat, flashlight, and ran toward the smoke. The forest was dark and wet. Branches snapped under his feet. The smell of burning metal grew stronger. Soon, he reached a small clearing and froze. In front of him, half buried in mud, was a silver pod. It was broken and steaming. Lights blinked on its sides, flashing red. It didn't look like anything built by humans. Eli stepped closer. The pod hissed. A small hatch opened with a slow creak. Smoke spilled out, and inside, he saw something that made his heart stop. A child. She was small and thin, her skin light purple with faint glowing lines. Her eyes were wide, filled with fear. She looked at him, clutching a strange pendant to her chest. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just stared. Eli dropped to his knees and held out his hand. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly. "You're safe now." The child didn't move. Rain soaked her clothes. She shivered. Eli took off his coat and wrapped it around her. He picked her up gently. She was light, almost too light. The pendant around her neck pulsed with a soft blue light. He carried her back to the cabin. Inside, Eli placed her near the fire and gave her warm soup. Though she didn't eat, she looked around, curious and alert, but said nothing. He pointed to himself. "Eli," he said slowly. She blinked. Then she touched her chest and whispered something soft. The sound didn't match any language Eli knew. "Luma," he repeated gently. She nodded. Eli smiled. "Okay, Luma, you're safe here." He gave her dry clothes and a blanket. She didn't cry or speak, but she stayed close to him, watching his every move. Over the next few days, Eli taught her small words. He pointed at things. Cup, fire, book, and she repeated them in a soft voice. She was smart, faster than any child he had met. She learned with her eyes, her hands, and her heart. One night, Eli woke up to a sound outside. He looked through the window and saw something in the sky. A dark shape hovered silently above the trees, its lights blinking slowly. It wasn't a plane. It wasn't a helicopter. It vanished a moment later. Eli didn't know if it was friend or enemy. Luma drew pictures on paper. One day, she drew a planet with rings, a ship, and a smaller figure, herself. Beside her was a larger figure with long hair. She pointed at it, then at the sky. "Mama," she whispered. Eli understood. Her mother was out there, searching. He felt a pain in his chest. He didn't know why. He had only known her for a few days, but she already felt like family. She called him Eli now. Sometimes she smiled. Once she even laughed. He began building a signal beacon. Maybe someone was looking for her. Maybe she didn't belong on Earth. But the thought of losing her made him feel cold. One evening, as the sun went down, Eli sat by the fire with Luma asleep beside him. Her pendant still glowed softly. He held it for a moment. It felt warm, alive. He didn't know where she came from or who was watching from above. But one thing was clear. She needed him. And maybe, just maybe, he needed her too. Far in the distance, hidden beyond the stars, something stirred. But for now, in that quiet cabin, under the watch of ancient trees and starlit skies, a human and an alien child had found each other. and neither would ever be the same again. The mother. The night was cold, and a heavy mist rolled across the ground like it was hiding something. Eli sat by the fireplace, staring into the flames. Luma was asleep on the couch, curled up under a thick blanket. She had begun to speak more each day, her voice soft, always careful, like she was afraid the words might break. Eli kept a notebook full of the new words she used. Some were from English, others were from her own strange language that he couldn't find in any human record. Her pendant never left her neck. When she slept, it glowed gently. When she was afraid, it pulsed faster. Tonight, it was glowing steady and soft, like a heartbeat. Eli felt something in his gut. Not fear, not exactly. More like the feeling just before lightning strikes. He couldn't shake the thought that someone, or something, was coming. As he stepped outside to check the perimeter, he heard it. Not a sound, exactly. More like silence being broken. The kind that made the hairs on your arm rise. He turned toward the edge of the woods. Through the fog, a figure appeared. Tall, still, feminine. He reached for the old shotgun hanging by the door, but didn't lift it. The figure walked slowly, without fear or haste. She was dressed in silver robes that shimmered faintly under the moonlight. Her skin, the same shade of lavender as Luma's, glowed in patches, like stars spread across her body. Her eyes caught the light in a way that made Eli freeze. They weren't human eyes. They were deeper, brighter, like they'd seen more than 1,000 lifetimes. "Who are you?" Eli asked, his voice firm but calm. She didn't speak. Instead, she raised her hand, palm open. Her fingers were long, graceful. She stepped closer, stopping just at the edge of the light coming from the cabin window. Eli lowered the shotgun. "Are you here for the girl?" At the sound of his voice, she blinked. Then slowly she nodded. "She's inside, sleeping." That was when the woman finally spoke, not with her mouth, but with her mind. Her voice entered his thoughts like a gentle wind. "I am Serena. I am her mother." Eli felt the words rather than heard them. They weren't loud, but they echoed deep inside him. He opened the door wider. "Then come in. She's safe here." Serena stepped inside slowly, her eyes sweeping across the room. The moment she saw Luma, her expression changed. It wasn't just relief. It was something deeper. Her face softened, and she rushed to her daughter's side. Luma stirred. When she opened her eyes and saw Serena, her whole body jumped. "Mama." Serena knelt and pulled her close. They didn't speak in words. They pressed their foreheads together, sharing something silent and ancient. The pendant around Luma's neck glowed brightly now. The color shifted from blue to gold, warm and bright. Eli stepped back and gave them space. After a few minutes, Luma fell back to sleep in her mother's arms. Serena turned to Eli, eyes filled with something strange. Gratitude mixed with curiosity. "You protected her. You fed her. You taught her. Why?" "Because she needed me," Eli said simply. "And I think I needed her too." Serena looked at him for a long time, studying him. Then she walked over to the table, placed her hand above the notebook filled with Luma's drawings and language notes. She didn't touch it, but her fingers hovered just above the page. "She shared your dreams." "What do you mean?" "She dreamed of you, your voice, your tools, your kindness, even your sadness. She trusted you, before she even understood what trust meant." Eli didn't know what to say to that. Serena sat beside the fire. The glow from the flames danced in her silver robes. She looked strong, but tired. She had been traveling a long time. He could see it in the way her shoulders sagged, in the way her eyes sometimes stared into nothing. Why was she alone? "What happened?" he asked. Serena was silent for a moment. Then she spoke aloud, her voice soft and musical. "I sent her away, because they were coming. Men who hunt bloodlines, not people. She carries something old, something powerful. Her pendant hides her from them, but not forever." "Who are they?" "Those who believe power should not mix with mercy. those who fear what she may become. And you. I believe in her. I believe she will be more than they ever dreamed. And maybe, I believe in you too." Those last words hit Eli harder than he expected. Outside, the fog was starting to lift. The stars peeked through the dark clouds. Luma's breathing was soft and steady. The fire crackled gently. Serena looked around the cabin. She touched a metal bird Eli had made from scrap. She smiled at the way its wings moved when she pressed a switch. "You made this." "Yeah, I fix broken things." "So do I," she whispered. They sat in silence for a while. "Will you take her back?" Eli finally asked. Serena didn't answer at first. Her fingers brushed Luma's hair as she looked into the fire. "Not yet," she said. "She is safe here, and maybe we are too." The bond deepens. Days passed slowly, like sunlight dripping through thick trees. The forest was quieter now. The sky felt wider. And inside the small cabin, something gentle began to grow. Serena didn't leave after that first night. She stayed, silent but present, moving through the space like a shadow that belonged. She didn't ask for comfort. She didn't ask for help. But she watched Eli closely, as if trying to learn the shape of his soul. Eli was careful at first. She was, after all, not human, not even close. The way she moved, the way she spoke without words, the way she understood machines just by looking at them, it all reminded him she was from another world. But even with all that, she didn't feel like a stranger. In the mornings, Luma sat at the table with a bowl of cereal, feet swinging under the chair, her pendant glowing with soft gold. Serena stood behind her, one hand gently resting on her daughter's shoulder. Eli would make coffee, say good morning, and sometimes Serena would reply out loud with a word she had learned the day before. She spoke slowly, her accent soft and strange, like music from a dream. Each word felt like a gift. One morning, Eli found her standing in his workshop, staring at the half-finished machines he'd been building. Broken radios, old solar panels, little wind-up toys made from scrap metal. He hadn't invited her in, but she looked around like she already knew every detail. "You fix things," she said, pointing at a device on the table. "I try," he answered. She touched the edge of a rusted circuit board. Her fingers glowed for a second, and the metal lines pulsed blue. The broken part lit up for the first time in years. "You don't just fix," she said. "You create." Eli didn't know what to say. Compliments weren't common in his life, and when they came from someone like her, someone who glowed from the inside out, they hit deeper. They started spending more time together. She watched how he taught Luma, how patient he was. He watched how she guided Luma with a single look or touch. She never raised her voice. She didn't need to. Luma listened with her heart. They began to share small things. Serena would show him star maps etched into her skin, ancient constellations from galaxies he couldn't even name. She'd press her hand to a blank wall, and images would shimmer to life, floating in the air like light made solid. He showed her how to carve wood with simple tools. She traced the lines he made with delicate fingers, fascinated by the way something so simple could hold so much care. One night, as rain fell softly on the roof, they sat together by the fire while Luma slept in her small bed. Eli was reading an old book, and Serena sat beside him, watching the flames. "Why do you live alone?" she asked suddenly. Eli closed the book. The question surprised him. "I guess I didn't know how to be with people anymore." "But you know how to be with her," she said, nodding toward Luma. "She's different. She didn't come with judgment or noise. Just need. I knew what to do with that." "And me?" Serena asked, turning her eyes to him. He hesitated, then smiled. "You confuse me." She didn't laugh, but her eyes softened. "You ground her," she said. "She runs to you when she wakes from bad dreams. She listens to your voice more than mine." "That's not true." "It is, and I am not angry. I am grateful." She leaned her head back and closed her eyes. The firelight made her skin glow like soft starlight. For a moment, Eli couldn't look away. "You're not just her mother, are you?" he asked. "No," she said quietly. "I was a queen once, or something like it. I walked through halls made of crystal and gave orders that moved armies, but none of it prepared me for the day I held her in my arms. You gave it all up. I would give it up again. For her. And now, maybe for more." The fire popped. Outside, the forest whispered with wind. Later that night, Eli woke up and saw her standing by the window. Moonlight lit her face, and she looked almost human in that moment. Almost. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "No, I am listening." "To what?" "To the stars. To see if they're still searching. And if they are, then I'll fight, but not alone." She turned to him, and something unspoken passed between them. They didn't touch. Not yet. But something had shifted, something had grown. And neither of them could deny it anymore. The bounty. The morning began like the others, quiet, soft, and peaceful. Birds sang outside the cabin, and mist curled gently around the tall trees. Eli poured a cup of tea, the steam rising into the cool air. Luma sat cross-legged on the floor, humming a song she'd learned from Serena. The pendant on her chest glowed blue today, calm and warm. Serena stood by the window, her eyes distant. She had not slept. Eli noticed the way she was staring, not at the trees, not at the sky, but beyond. "What is it?" he asked, setting the cup down. "They found us," she whispered. Eli froze. He didn't ask who. He already knew. The ones she had spoken of only in pieces, those who wanted her daughter not for love, but for power. The ones who hunted across galaxies without rest. "How do you know?" Serena raised her arm, and from the sleeve of her robe, a small metal orb floated into the air. It pulsed red and displayed a glowing map of the forest. Tiny dots moved through the trees, 6 of them, surrounding the cabin like wolves around a fire. "Bounty hunters," she said. "Not the worst kind, but not the kind that leave either." Eli stepped back and grabbed the hidden panel behind the fireplace. Inside were tools, wires, and something he hadn't touched in years. An old plasma rifle, half broken, nearly forgotten. He laid it on the table. "I can help," he said. Serena nodded, not out of pride, but because she knew they had no choice. By the time the sun reached the tops of the trees, the hunters had arrived. They didn't wear uniforms, just mismatched armor and weapons from every corner of the galaxy. Scars marked their faces. Their leader, a tall figure with metal jaw implants, stepped forward and spoke through a translator. "We are here for the child. Give her to us, and we will leave." Eli stepped out onto the porch, calm but firm. "She's not yours to take." "She's not yours either," the leader said. "She's property of the Akari Syndicate. She belongs to them." "She belongs to herself," Eli answered. Behind him, Serena stood tall. Her silver robes shimmered, and her eyes glowed faintly. Luma peeked from behind her, holding her pendant tightly. The leader noticed her. "There she is. Step aside." "I am Serena of Valon," she said aloud, voice like thunder wrapped in silk. "And she is under my protection." And his. The leader smiled coldly. "You are a ghost, Serena. Your titles mean nothing now." "Perhaps," she said, "but I'm still alive. And so is he." Without warning, Eli hit a switch on the side of the cabin. Old machines he'd buried years ago came to life. Crude, homemade defenses. Rotating panels popped from the trees. Nets of high-voltage wires snapped into position. Traps buried beneath leaves clicked active. The bounty hunters hesitated. They hadn't expected resistance from a human. The leader raised his weapon. "Stand down, or this ends badly." Eli didn't blink. It already ended badly the day you came after her. The fight that followed wasn't long, but it was fierce. Eli used his traps wisely, triggering smoke bombs, electric bursts, and confusion. Serena moved like light itself, using her energy fields to push the attackers back. She didn't kill them, but she made sure they wouldn't get up again quickly. Eli fought with a mix of desperation and skill. He wasn't a soldier, but he had learned from machines how to predict movement, how to read energy, how to strike smart. When one of the hunters cornered Luma, she screamed, but her pendant exploded with a burst of light that sent the attacker flying backward. No one touched her again after that. When the dust settled, 4 bounty hunters lay unconscious. 2 had flowed into the woods, running for their lives. The leader was on the ground, groaning. Serena stood over him. "Tell your syndicate," she said. "We are not prey. We are not weak. And we will not be taken." The leader spat blood. "You can't hide forever." "Then we won't," Eli said. "But we'll fight. Together." The leader looked at him, eyes narrowing. "You're just a man." "I was," Eli said. "Now I'm a father." They dragged the leader far into the woods and left him bound beneath a ruined tree. Serena used her energy to erase all traces of the battle. The forest healed itself, slowly but surely. Back at the cabin, Eli sat on the porch, breathing hard. His hands shook, not from fear, but from something deeper. The realization that he had chosen this life. Not by accident, not by force, but by love. Serena joined him, her face quiet. "You risked everything," she said. "So did you." They sat in silence, watching the trees sway. Inside, Luma laughed, playing with pieces of broken tech. The pendant on her chest now glowed white. "They'll come again," Serena said. "I know. They'll come harder next time. Then we'll be stronger too." She turned to him. "I never meant to stay this long." "I know. But I don't want to leave." Eli met her eyes. "Then don't." The escape plan. The forest was quiet again, but the silence didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt like a warning, like the woods were holding their breath. Eli worked on the beacon in the shed behind the cabin. Wires ran across the walls, blinking lights from alien tech mixed with old human tools. He had learned more in a few weeks than he had in years. Every device Serena touched came alive. But today, she kept her distance. She stood near the window, arms crossed, eyes not on the machines but on the sky. "We can't stay here," she said finally, her voice low. Eli didn't answer right away. He adjusted the signal core, tightened a bolt. It sparked. "They know we're here now," she continued. "The next ones won't be bounty hunters. They'll be worse. So we run." "Not run," she said. "Move, hide smarter, deeper, far from the grids." "What about Luma?" Eli asked. Serena looked toward the house. Luma was inside, painting on the walls with colors Eli had made from crushed berries and flowers. She was humming. She seemed happy. "She loves it here," Serena whispered. "But she can't stay. If they capture her, they'll take what she is. They'll erase everything else." Eli sat down on the workbench. His hands were covered in grease and energy dust. He stared at the floor. "So what's the plan?" Serena moved closer and pulled out a small silver cube from her robe. When she tapped it, a projection appeared. Maps, star charts, hidden travel paths through planets Eli had only seen in books. One spot glowed faintly green. "A refuge planet," she said. "Mostly forest. No major settlements. Only small tribes and ancient tech. They won't scan there." "And how do we get there?" "I can summon a transport. Not big, not fast, but it will get us to the jump gate." "When?" 3 days. But once the beacon is active, they'll know we're leaving. We'll only have one chance." Eli nodded. "I'll help you build it." Serena hesitated. "You won't come." Eli looked up, confused. "You're not meant for this life," she said. "Running, hiding, sleeping under alien skies. You think I care about stars when she calls me father." He stood now. "You think I care about where we sleep as long as we're together." Serena's voice softened. "This isn't your fight, Eli. It became my fight the moment I found her. Maybe even before." She looked at him for a long time. Then slowly, she sat down beside him on the bench. "You have no idea what it means to say those words. Maybe not, but I know what it means to love someone who needs you." That night, the three of them sat around the fire. Eli told a story about how he once tried to fix an old radio that exploded in his face. Luma laughed so hard she fell over, her little arms waving in the air. Serena smiled. It wasn't the careful, guarded smile she usually gave. It was full, warm, and real. Eli caught her looking at him, not with fear, not with gratitude, with something deeper. When Luma was finally asleep, wrapped in a blanket with stars drawn on it, Eli and Serena stepped outside. The night was cool. Clouds moved across the moon like drifting thoughts. "I was going to leave tonight," Serena said suddenly. Eli's chest tightened. "You were? I thought it would be easier, safer, no goodbyes. But you didn't." "I couldn't." They stood close, not touching, but not apart. The space between them felt like a promise waiting to be spoken. "I've been many things," Serena said. "A leader, a warrior, a mother, but never this." "What is this?" Eli asked, voice soft. "Home," she whispered. And then slowly she leaned in. Their foreheads touched first, then their lips. It wasn't a kiss full of fire. It was quiet, honest, like saying thank you without words, like letting go of every wall, every fear. When they pulled apart, she rested her head on his chest. "You're not alone anymore," he said. "Neither are you." The next morning, Serena was gone. Eli searched the cabin, the workshop, the trees. Gone. Only Luma remained, still sleeping, the pendant now glowing a pale silver. On the table, a note made of light flickered once, then played her voice. "Protect her. Love her. She is yours as much as mine now. I will come back. But first, I must make sure the path is safe. Forgive me." Eli stood there, frozen, part of him shattered. But the other part, the part that had learned to love, held strong. He looked down at Luma, who had just woken. She smiled and reached for him. "Papa," she said. He bent down and hugged her tight. "We'll wait for her," he said. "And when she returns, we'll be ready." The return. Days turned into weeks. The trees began to shift color, their leaves curling under early signs of the changing season. Birds migrated, the wind whispered colder stories, and in the little cabin hidden deep in the forest, Eli stayed. Alone, but not entirely. Serena didn't return. Every morning, Eli woke before the sun, hoping he might hear the sound of her voice again, or see the shimmer of her robes against the trees. But there was nothing. Only the quiet sounds of forest life, and the soft breath of a child who had made his world whole again. Luma grew faster than any human child. Not in size, but in understanding. She spoke in full sentences now, mixing English with fragments of her native tongue. She could read Eli's old books, repair simple tools, and even cook breakfast with minimal mess. Sometimes she stared at the stars for hours, whispering names of places that Eli couldn't pronounce, but listened to anyway. Other times, she would fall asleep on the porch, holding her pendant close to her chest, like it was a lifeline. Eli never told her Serena might not come back. He didn't believe that himself. Not truly. But each day the silence stretched. The doubt grew louder. Then, one gray morning, it happened. A high-pitched whine split the air, sharp and sudden. Eli dropped the wrench in his hand and ran outside. Above the tree line, a shadow moved across the sky. Long, sleek, not Serena's ship, a hunter-class vessel. It was coming fast, engines roaring like thunder as it cut through the clouds. "Luma!" Eli shouted, running back into the cabin. She was already up, already holding her pendant, eyes wide with fear. "They're here." "Hide," he said. He pulled the false wall behind the bookshelf and helped her climb inside the hidden room he had built. It was small but strong, shielded with cloaking panels Serena had taught him how to use. "Don't come out until I call you, no matter what." "But Papa," "No matter what." He kissed her forehead and closed the panel. Then he turned and picked up the plasma rifle. The same one he had nearly tossed into the river months ago. He charged it and walked out the front door just as the ship landed in the clearing. It hissed as it opened. 3 figures stepped out. Tall, armored, faceless behind smooth helmets. They didn't speak. Eli didn't wait. He fired. The first bolt hit the lead figure square in the chest, sending them flying into a tree. The other 2 raised their weapons, but Eli ducked behind a wall of metal he had set up as cover days earlier, just in case. This wasn't his first fight now. He moved smart, low and fast, just like Serena taught him. He got one more down, but the last was better trained. A shockwave blast knocked Eli off his feet, and he hit the ground hard. Pain exploded in his ribs. The hunter stepped over him, weapon raised. "Don't," Eli groaned. The hunter didn't listen. But then the sky cracked open. A pulse of light brighter than the sun tore through the clouds, and a second ship dropped down like a falling star. It didn't land. It hovered. And from its center, a glowing ring appeared. And Serena stepped through it. She didn't walk. She floated. She wore no robe now, no crown, just battle armor woven from starlight and memory. Her eyes blazed gold, her voice thundered in the minds of everyone present. "Touch him," she said, "and you will not see another dawn." The hunter froze, just long enough. Eli rolled, grabbed the rifle, and fired. The last hunter dropped. The silence returned, heavy and unreal. Serena ran to him, her face full of something he hadn't seen before. Fear. "You're hurt," she said, kneeling beside him. "I've had worse. You stubborn, foolish man. I missed you too." She laughed. Not a soft laugh. A real one. Sharp and bright like the edge of joy. She helped him to his feet. He leaned on her as they walked inside. He opened the hidden wall. Luma launched herself out of the space and into her mother's arms. "You came back," she whispered. "Always," Serena said. "Always, little light." They stayed like that for a while, 3 souls wrapped in silence and safety. Later, when the sun set and the stars filled the sky again, Serena sat beside Eli on the porch. "They know," she said, "about us. About everything. Us, her, this place. Then what do we do?" She looked at him, tired but strong. "We don't hide anymore. We protect, together. And if they come again, they'll regret it." Eli chuckled. "You know, when I found her, I thought it was an accident. It wasn't." No, she said, resting her head on his shoulder. "Some stars are meant to fall exactly where they're needed." The family. The cabin stood quiet again, but it was not the silence of fear anymore. It was the silence of peace. The kind that only comes after storms, when all the winds have passed and the ground begins to breathe again. Eli sat on the porch with a tool in one hand and a half-built toy in the other. Beside him, Luma giggled as she painted bright stars on a piece of wood. Her small hands were messy with color, and her joy was loud, open, and free. Inside the cabin, Serena moved with soft steps. She no longer watched the sky for ships. Instead, she watched the way sunlight danced across the floor, the way Luma smiled in her sleep, the way Eli's voice had become part of her world. Her armor was packed away now. Her eyes no longer held the sharp edge of war. They carried the quiet strength of someone who had finally found a home. But even peace has its tests. They came in the early afternoon, without warning. A quiet hum in the distance, not hostile like the hunter ships. A council transport, smaller, sleeker, and lined with the symbols of galactic law. Eli saw it land just beyond the trees. No panic this time, just steady breath and steady hands. "They're here," Eli said. Serena stepped outside, already knowing. "They will ask questions," she said. "They will not like our answers." Eli nodded. "Then we give them the truth." The council envoy stepped from the ship. Only one. Tall, neutral, and dressed in robes that shimmered with shifting colors. Not human. Not from Serena's world either. Something in between. Their face was unreadable. Their voice, when it came, was soft but sharp. "We have come to speak about the child." Serena stood beside Luma, one hand gently on her shoulder. "She is not a threat." "She is not yours to keep," the envoy replied. Eli stepped forward. "She's mine." The envoy turned toward him, curious. "You are not of her blood." "No," Eli said. "I'm something better. I'm her father." The envoy blinked slowly. "And by what right do you claim this?" Eli didn't move. "By every meal I cooked. Every night I stayed up when she cried. Every word I taught her. Every laugh we shared. Every time I risked my life to protect her. I didn't need a right. I just needed love." There was silence. Even the forest seemed to listen. Serena added, "She carries a legacy none of us asked for. And yet, in the hands of a man with no power, no title, and no home beyond these woods, she found something rare. Safety. Family." The envoy looked at Luma, who met their gaze without fear. "Do you wish to stay with them?" the envoy asked gently. Luma looked at Eli, then at Serena, then back at the envoy. "This is where my stars shine," she said. The envoy bowed their head. "So be it. But know this, others may not accept your choice. They may come. They may test your peace." "Then let them come," Serena said. "We are not afraid." The envoy gave one last look, then turned and walked back to the ship. As it lifted into the sky, Eli let out a slow breath. "That went better than I expected," he said. Serena smiled. "You speak with the kind of truth they cannot argue with. That's just years of fixing broken things and talking to myself." "And yet," she said, "it saved us. They didn't leave the planet. They didn't have to. Instead, they made a new life." Eli expanded the cabin, adding rooms with soft lights and curved walls inspired by Serena's old home. He planted a garden with Luma, where human tomatoes grew next to glowing alien fruit. Serena taught them songs in her language, and Eli taught them how to fix old radios just for the joy of hearing static change to music. They didn't count time the same way anymore. Not by calendars or clocks. They measured it in moments, like the first time Luma read an entire story aloud, or when Serena fell asleep on Eli's shoulder by the fire, or when they all danced in the rain for no reason at all. Sometimes Luma would ask about the stars, about the places she had come from, and Serena would answer. But she always ended with the same words. "We are more than where we were born. We are who we choose to love." One night, as the moon rose above the trees and the cabin was quiet with sleep, Eli stood outside, looking at the stars. The wind was soft. The world felt full. Serena came out and wrapped her arms around him from behind. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "Just wondering what would have happened if I hadn't opened that pod door." She rested her chin on his shoulder. "I would have still found you." "How?" "Because love doesn't need maps." He turned, kissed her forehead, and smiled. "So, what now?" he asked. She looked at the sky. "Now we live. Not in fear. Not in hiding. Just together." Eli nodded. Together. They stood like that for a long time, a human and an alien queen, watching the stars their daughter had once come from. Not as strangers, not as survivors, but as a family.